So Andy, it sounded like from what you said that you believe in the maxim the customer is normally wrong, and that you should make your decision. You should base your decision making on things other than feedback.
I think feedback is a very important part of product development, but I think in the very early stages you can get tied up in listening to every single thing that a customer says. The great thing about having a product when you're giving it away for free, when you're just garnering support and garnering kind of early feedback, is that you don't have to act upon it. The problem is as soon as people start paying for something, they believe they have a right to demand new features. And unfortunately, customers are going to demand features which work for their specific use case. And that specific use case probably doesn't match 99% of what other people are looking for. One of the great things about focus, I talked about this, is the more focused your product is and the more focused your go-to-market is, the more likely the feedback from a customer is likely to be the same as what other people want. But when we first started out, we were going broad, we were trying to service everybody, and a very specific customer feedback that could be targeted just for advertising agencies wouldn't have worked for our government customers or our brand customers or anybody else. So I just think you have to be quite strict in the early days, and one of the hardest things about being a product person is learning to say no.
Emmy, do you have a perspective on how you make these same sort of decisions?
Yeah, so Henry Ford is famous for saying that if I would have asked people what they want, I would have built a faster horse, right? And I think that's true in startups very much, and at Brainian we were very, in the early days, just trying to get revenue and clients. We started actually building features that clients wanted, because we figured if we do this and we sign this big client, we're set. But that ended up being a terrible decision, because we ended up having a product that worked for some customers but didn't really work for anyone else. And we went back and said, oh, we're going to have a roadmap, and we're going to stick to the roadmap, and if enough customers ask for something and we think it fits with our roadmap, we'll do it. So I think something very important for startups early on is to know where they're heading in terms of product and have a roadmap, and then see if that roadmap can be influenced by the feedback from clients.
Yeah, I mean, there's a great quote that I love which says, I don't know the secret to success, but the secret to failure is trying to please everybody.
So the other thing that caught me in the talks was a little bit from you, and then also from Nicholas, was about audacity and boldness. So talking about Europe not being as good as America, which we hear a lot at these sorts of conferences.
Well, Europe not being as good as
America. Well, it's good at
marketing
marketing itself, and well, I'm sure we will have different views on that, which unfortunately we can't go into today. Yeah, Europe not being as good at celebrating its successes, and the importance of being audacious and expanding before other people might consider it to be prudent.
I think Europe is not great at celebrating failure, because that's what America is actually great at. If you fail in America, it's awesome. Investors
we only have 2 of 10 startup conference platitudes left. We can do this.
I'm not sure that's true. I wouldn't sure investors would say we celebrate failure. I think they tolerate failure perhaps better than we do in Europe. But I don't think failure should ever really be celebrated. It should be, as long as you learn from it, it's fine. But failure is still failure at the end of the day.
Okay, we have time for a couple more questions, and I'd like you to ask sort of as broad kind of entrepreneurship-based questions as you can. I'll try and direct them to people who haven't had a chance to have a chat yet. I'm going to call on my beautiful front row assistant, who is going to give me the microphone. This is Sabina. Say hello. Now, I hope you've all been preparing some questions. Sabina's going to come around and pick whoever she likes the look of the best.
Well, that would be easy, because that's obviously you.
That's kind. And then I will attempt to field the question to people who haven't had a chance to speak yet.
Exactly. So should we pick the person who hasn't?
You get questions from the audience.
Oh, do you want me to get questions from the audience? Okay. So who wants to ask a question? Okay.
Do you still need me? Another 2, and then you're good. Then we're done. Then we can go home.
Hi. Okay, it works. My name is Haik. I'm very interested to meet you, Nicola, because I co-founded a carpooling application, except it's in Egypt, in Arab world, where the traditional model, Western model, Google Map, and going from one place to another doesn't work. There's like at least 3 failed cases, so if we could talk after. The question to you is, what is the issue of security? How do you deal with this? And if there is any numbers and statistics.
Yeah,
And sorry, just to and an advice for Peter. I used to live in Southern Africa, actually in Mozambique specifically, for a year and a half. I actually had malaria, and I went through it and through the whole process. So maybe I can talk to you later on, give you some contacts. Thanks.
So okay, I'll start with safety and security, and you're right. I mean, that's not something I mentioned in this presentation, but essentially the way we think of what we're building is we're actually building a trusted community, and that trusted community enables ride sharing. But initially, and to talk about feedback, to go back to what you guys talked about on feedback, I mean, 5 or 6 years ago when we started the company, the feedback we got was, it's never going to work, forget it guys, just go work for consulting or go do something else with your life. And the main reason was safety, because people thought like it's like hitchhiking online, and essentially it's never going to work because people don't hitchhike anymore. So what we've done over time is and in a way we've been helped by social networks and all of that, but we've built more and more trust on checks and verifications actually in the community, so that today when you sign up to BlaBlaCar, we double check your mobile number, we connect you to Facebook, we use peer-to-peer reviews, and so on and so on. And over time, actually, as you build that trust in the community, we've seen that usage goes up and up and up. So it's really hard to crack at the beginning. So there is a chicken and the egg problem, and that's why we start very early in lots of countries, because it can take a year or two to build the community. But then you have this, once you create a bit of trust in the community, it builds up. And that's how we cracked it in about 10 markets now.
Okay, so who wants to go next? I saw there are lots of people who are tweeting a lot about
I think there was a
this
follow-on
event,
question actually for Peter.
Oh,
right?
do you?
Yeah, well,
yes?
he
Okay,
offered some.
sorry.
We'll talk afterwards. Yeah, thanks.
Yeah, so.
May I say just one comment in scaling globally? Because we all have our own plans, how we want to develop our products and how we want to achieve, our customers and approach our customers. The thing we learn from our business, because we run worldwide business, I mean truly worldwide business. We have 170 partners around the world. So what we tried to do in past is that we tried to copy model we used in the US and in Europe. And we tried to use that model in Asia. And it just didn't work. Because there is a cultural and language difference between Asian world and European and American world. So what we first did this year, we went to Asia and we learned about the cultural difference. So that's something you should think about. So yes, there is a plan usually, and there is your real roadmap, how you want to develop your product. But in the end, it may not work with some markets. So you should in that case, you should listen to your market and you should listen to your customers and adopt to your customers, of course.
So I think we have probably time for one more question. Somebody has a microphone, actually, so let's just do one last one quickly.
Yes, thank you. My name is Apostolos Vondas, and I'm Virta co-founder, and we are semi-finalists in Webit Startup Challenge. And we have just completed, we believe, the seed round with our personal funds. And I would like to ask you, the panel, and especially Nicholas and Andy that saw the presentations, what do you think was your competitive advantage? What was the winning point that you managed to raise your first Series A round to venture capitalists, 10 million and 40 million? If you can give us some idea.
So the question is, what was your competitive advantage at that when?
Yes, and the winning point. I mean, if you can look back now and if you can share this with us, I mean that.
I see. Well, let's whip through the whole panel very quickly. Try and keep it to a sentence or two.
Okay, so I'll start. So I think it depends on the stage, right? So for us at the early beginning, the thing we've done is we worked for a long time actually with no funding, just personal funding essentially on the product, and we could prove when we've done the first fundraising, we could actually prove that the service was working, that we had usage, even though it was not monetized, and that we had leadership in one country. So we could say, okay, it's working, people are using it, we're not sure how we're going to make money yet, or we have a plan, but at least the product was built. So I think you build the product first. And as a second phase, so today, it's a bit of a different story. I mean, today it's more about like the growth and the size of the community, and that's how we're able to attract like $10 million from bigger VCs. So it's just different phases, but to me, like the key thing is work on your service first before you start thinking about raising money. Build first, raise later.
So I think when it comes to seed, investors generally invest in people, and that's the only thing they care about. They care about the team and how good the team is and how dedicated the team is to build whatever they're building. And then when it comes to Series A and Series B, things are different in Europe than the US. In the US, with Series A, they want to see that you have a product, and now you're going to use the Series A to prove that people are willing to pay for that product. In Europe, in order to get Series A, Series B, or anything, you need to make money, and you need to show that you've already figured out that people want to pay for it. And then Series B and beyond, it's just traction. That's, if they see traction, they're going to give you money. If they don't, they won't.
Yeah, I mean, what these guys have said is absolutely right. I think the only thing I would add is that at the Series A point, a huge market is a huge advantage. If you can talk about the fact you're building something which, even if you don't win in the space, even if you're number 2 or number 3, you can still build $1 billion company, that's very compelling. I mean, the example that I would draw would be maybe kind of document management in the 90s, or maybe kind of enterprise social networks in this decade. You know, there have been several big plays already. Yammer, 1.2 billion, Jive worth about 2.5 billion right now, and there will be more plays yet. And that's because this is a big space that VCs can see kind of lots of big players in. But to my point, unless you care about what you're building, the passion's not going to shine through, and nobody's going to buy the story.
Well, the thing is that you have to be different than the others. So that's most important thing. Bring us something that don't exist, or implement technology that you are creating completely new product. I mean, helicopter is known by, it's drawn by Leonardo, but it's built to fly, maybe, I don't know, 150 years ago. So there is always space where you can use a new technology, solving old problem, and be unique. As long as unique, there is always possibility to attract some investment. And the market, of course, the customers.
Well, there's a lot of things already said. I would say most important thing is also to be interdisciplinary. So combining, for example, creative technologies with web technologies, or biotechnology with, let's say, making fabrication technology. So that gives you an edge, because most of the people that are in biotech, they don't expect you to make machines. If you are in machines, they don't expect you to make very good websites. When we started a year ago, I mean, malariadiagnostics.com was still not claimed. In this whole field, nobody really thought about internet marketing before. So yeah, bringing two worlds together, that can be really a big advantage.
Thank you very much. Thank you for being such a patient audience at the end of the day, and being enthusiastic and having questions. Sometimes when you do this at the end of the day, people are like, really? No, you expect me to get involved? So thank you very much. Please join me in saying thank you to our panelists who've traveled from all over the place, and we're very grateful to have them here, so thank you.